In 4 degrees, you're competing against each other and against the clock. When the game begins, the category wheel appears and a player is designated to choose the category for the first challenge. If it's your turn, your name will appear in the bottom left corner of the screen. Select the category you want for this challenge by pressing the corresponding number on the remote 1 through 6. As soon as you've made your selection, the die will roll telling you the maximum points you can win on this challenge. All the other players will be playing for the standard value of up to 50 points. Once the category is selected, the game poses a challenge. In this example, it's Name This Fairy Tale. The information you're given to solve this challenge is in the form of 4 degrees or clues. All players get to answer the challenge using their individual remotes. When you think you know the answer, make your choice from the options at the bottom of the screen by pressing A, B, C, or D at the top of your remote. When you enter your answer, the color of your remote will appear here. In 4 degrees, once you've entered your choice, you can't change your answer. As the challenge progresses, each of the 4 degrees or clues makes your choice easier, but the longer you wait to answer, the fewer points you'll receive. If you answer incorrectly, you'll lose that number of points. Remember, if it's your turn and you rolled 100, you will earn or lose double the number shown up here. These are the standard points that everyone else is playing for. A roll of 150 would triple this score, and so on. Within the last clue, we give you a big hint, either in the picture or in a word that's in quotes. When the time is up, the answer is revealed, followed by a scoreboard. At this point, you can proceed to the next challenge by pressing the Next button. Or if you'd like to watch the challenge a second time, you can press the Replay button. So there you are, a challenge, 4 options, 4 clues, and a race against time for points. And that's 4 degrees. Have fun.
As a child, he dreamt that Dionysus, the god of wine and theater, told him to write tragedies. He wrote 90, of which all but 6 were lost. He was the first writer to introduce a second actor into plays. He met his fatal destiny in 456 BC when an eagle, mistaking the playwright's bald crown for a stone, dropped a tortoise on his head. In the early 1990s, pages from one of his lost plays were found lining the aesthetic casement of an Egyptian mummy. Believed lost in a fire at Alexandria in 48 BC, the reconstructed play Achilles was performed at Epidaurus as a prelude to the 2004 Athens Olympics. In 1963, he played a bicycle concerto on The Steve Allen Show, plucking the spokes and using the handlebars as a wind instrument. His autobiography, dedicated in part to Coco, the talking gorilla, contains a chapter entitled, "How Weird Am I Anyway?" Responding to Tipper Gore's belief that music could incite deviance, he said, "I wrote a song about dental floss, but did anyone's teeth get cleaner?" After dying from cancer in 1993, he had an asteroid, 3834 Zappa-Frank, named in his honor. He named his kids Moon Unit, Dweezil, Amit Rodan, and Diva. He insisted that they would have more trouble because of the surname Zappa, not their first names.
The 8-foot-long car made the 2005 Guinness Book for having had 13 German women crammed into one. Along with a 63 Jaguar and a 53 Jeep, its 98 Pulse is one of only 6 vehicles in the Museum of Modern Art's collection. Its modular body is a steel frame called a Tridion safety cell, to which exchangeable recycled plastic body panels are added. The slogan, "Reduced to the Max," can also be applied to its name, a reduction of parent companies Swatch, Mercedes, and Art. In 2005, a trucker on the Autobahn was pulled over to find he had one wedged into his grill, which he had pushed along for 2 miles. The smart car owner, Andreas Bolga, said, "I looked through my sunroof and could see the driver, but he didn't notice me." In many countries, the only beer that can be sold with this name is one that's been made in Bohemia since 1265. In the U.S., that beer is called Czechvar. The home of the St. Louis Cardinals, a stadium which bears the brewery's name, is slated to be demolished. Early promotions showed Ganymede clutching a bottle of it as he's being carried off by Zeus's eagle. The bird is still seen in its A and Eagle logo. 1989 saw the 49ers beat the Bengals in Super Bowl 23. It also saw Budweiser beat Bud Light in Bud Bowl 1. Anheuser-Busch weathered Prohibition by selling, among other things, a chocolate drink called Carcho, but celebrated its repeal in 1933 by buying a team of Clydesdales and a red brewery wagon, and later making a delivery of Bud to the White House.
Upon meeting her future in-laws for the first time, she was asked, "And what do you do?" She responded, "I read, I smoke, and I admire." If she were stranded on a desert island, her husband said she'd bring a vacuum cleaner, while her children thought she'd take a bottle of Windex. Born and raised a Democrat, this former librarian once characterized herself as Republican by marriage. She denies the story that she once ambushed her husband with the ultimatum, "It's me or the Jim Beam." In April 2005, Mrs. Bush joked about her husband at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. She called him Mr. Excitement and said she told him that if he wanted to end tyranny in the world, he would have to stay up later. As president of Paramount Studios, he oversaw production of Saturday Night Fever, Beverly Hills Cop, and the first 3 Star Trek movies. He irked Ted Koppel by trying to lure David Letterman away from CBS, offering him Nightline's time slot. Roy Disney hired him to revive the Disney Corporation. He presided over a golden age in animation with The Little Mermaid, Aladdin, and The Lion King. In 2003, Roy Disney resigned, bitterly accusing the controversial mogul of turning the corporation into a rapacious, soulless company. Roy Disney rallied a shareholder revolt that led the board of directors to dislodge Eisner from the chairmanship. Eisner later announced that he would step down as president in September 2005, a year before the end of his contract. Okay, this round is all about time. In each game of 4 degrees, there's a break at the halfway point where we play the arc of time. You can add as many as 200 points to your current score by placing the dates of 6 events in chronological order. The Gamewave will give you an event and the year it took place. When the date positions itself, the round begins. For 20 points, did this second event happen before or after the first event? If you think it occurred before 1935, you would select the number 1 on your remote. If it happened after 1935, you would select the number 2. When all the players have selected their choice, the date will be revealed and then drop into place. Now the stakes are higher. For 30 points, where does this event go on the timeline? Here's an important strategy. Players who don't know or don't want to guess may choose to retire from the Arc of Time round by pressing the stop button. They will keep the points they've accumulated, and their remotes will be disabled for the rest of the Arc of Time segment. In our example, players who think this event happened after 1935 but before 1945 would press 2. If you think it happened before 1935, you would press 1, or after 1945, you would press 3. After all players have entered their choices, the Gamewave will determine which players answered correctly and which did not. If you were wrong, you bust, losing all the points you've accumulated in the Arc of Time. Each event is worth 10 more points than the last. If you make it to the 6th event, you'll rack up a total of 200 points. The round is over when everyone busts, stops, or the 6th event is played. Player scores are then added to the overall game scores. Good luck.
In 2002, a FIFA poll chose his goal as the best ever in a World Cup. To score, he took the ball from his own half and eluded 5 opposition players. Earlier in that game, video evidence showed that he used his hand to score a crucial goal, which he later claimed was the hand of God. An eccentric group of fans has created a church around him that worships at the Hand of God Chapel in Argentina. Members of the Maradonian Church celebrate Christmas on October 30th, the day he was born. In his autobiography, Maradona admitted that his controversial goal against England in the 1986 World Cup was the hand of Diego and not the hand of God. After England beat Argentina 1-0 in the 2002 World Cup, some fans wore T-shirts that read, "Look, no hands." He began boxing at the age of 12 after his bike was stolen. The policeman to whom he reported the theft was a boxing trainer. He won a gold medal in the 1960 Olympic Games. Upon being refused service in a Louisville restaurant, he threw it in the Ohio River. He was stripped of his championship belt in 1967 when he refused to serve in Vietnam. He said he had nothing against no Viet Cong. He won the title 2 more times in his career, finally retiring in 1981. Shortly after, he was diagnosed with pugilistic Parkinson's syndrome. One of the greatest heavyweights of all time, he visited Afghanistan in 2004, drawing global attention to its humanitarian needs.
One of Patrick Swayze's earliest roles came on an episode of this show. The producers wanted to broadcast it without a laugh track, but were overruled by CBS. The DVD release lets viewers decide. Alan Arbus, who was once married to legendary photographer Diane Arbus, had a recurring role as Dr. Sidney Friedman. It was loosely adapted from Surgeon Richard Hornberger's novels about his Korean War experience in a mobile Army surgical hospital. Hornberger, writing under the pen name Richard Hooker, had based the character of Hawkeye on himself, although reportedly he did not like Alan Alda's portrayal in the series. Her autobiography, Memoirs of an Unfit Mother, chronicles her past struggles with alcoholism. She isn't impressed with the intelligence of George W. Bush and claimed she once saw him waving to Stevie Wonder at a benefit concert. Her famous catchphrase, "You are the weakest link, goodbye," was once used by British Prime Minister Tony Blair in Parliament. She said she knew she had conquered America when Mike Tyson called her one mean lady. In 2001, Robinson angered the Welsh by calling them irritating and annoying on a British TV show. She later made amends by filming a promotional TV commercial for the Wales Tourist Board free of charge.
When they first started performing in New York, they shared the stage with various acts, including the famous Flying Wallendas. In 1967, Penny Singleton, star of the Blondie films and the voice of Judy Jetson, organized a strike to gain better working conditions for this troupe. An American institution, they have endorsed products such as Legs and have their own exercise video called Kick into Fitness. Once called the Missouri Rockets, these women danced down the steps of the Lincoln Memorial at the 2001 inauguration of President George W. Bush. In order to avert another strike in 2002, Radio City Music Hall bought out its Rockettes for $2 million. Each dancer was paid according to the length of her service. He regularly stole Raymond Loewy-designed flatware from Air France's Concords and encouraged others to do the same because it was collectible. In 1965, he became the manager of Lou Reed's influential New York rock band, the Velvet Underground. His studio, The Factory, was the scene of an attempted murder. Valerie Solanas, put a bullet through his lungs, spleen, esophagus, stomach, and liver. His pop art is epitomized by the Campbell soup can. Andy once said, "Everyone will be famous for 15 minutes." He said of himself, "I'd prefer to remain a mystery. I never like to give my background, and anyway, I make it all up different every time I'm asked."
When she was 4 years old, she appeared on an episode of The Cosby Show as one of Rudy's pals at a slumber party. She became the first artist to sign with J Records, headed by legendary music impresario Clive Davis. She was only 14 when she wrote Butterflies, which appeared on her debut album, Songs in A Minor. A master of the piano keys, she sampled Chopin on her first hit single, Fallin'. In 2004, Keys published a book of poetry called Tears for Water. The book is a combination of poems from her private journals and lyrics from her first 2 albums. Alexandre Dumas first published it as a serial novel in the newspaper Le Siècle from 1845 to 1846. The Château d'If, a fortress built in 1524 on a rocky islet in the Mediterranean, still stands. It plays a prominent role in this book. The main character is falsely accused and imprisoned at the Château d'If. Upon his escape, he exacts retribution upon his tormentors. Jim Caviezel, who went on to star in Mel Gibson's The Passion of the Christ, counts it among his starring roles. The coffin of Alexandre Dumas, author of The Count of Monte Cristo, lies inside the Château de Monte Cristo in Marly-le-Roi. Dumas' remains were transferred to the Pantheon, the domed Paris monument where French luminaries are interred. A statue of the author appears in the background.
He appears as an animated character on TV's Futurama, the inventor of the Head Museum's head in a jar process. In 1984, this infomercial pioneer used $2 million of his personal fortune to buy back his own company after it went bankrupt. But wait, there's more! The head of Ronco has been sprayed many times with one of his trademark inventions, GLH9 hair in a can. The Smithsonian Institution can slice and dice with its very own 1975 Vegematic, donated by the Popeil family. The Vegematic was the invention of Samuel J. Popeil, Ron's father. As a toddler, she was reportedly given a flock of sheep by her doting mother Christina because she loved Baa Black Sheep. She's an avid show jumper. Her fiancé rode for Brazil's Olympic equestrian team in Sydney and Athens. In a bitter legal battle, her father accused the managers of the Onassis estate of plotting to have him killed and the heiress kidnapped. In a rare interview, Roussel said, "I want to forget the name Onassis. It's the cause of all the problems." On her 18th birthday, Aristotle Onassis' granddaughter inherited an estimated $2.7 billion and the island of Scorpios. Another $2 billion will be hers on her 21st birthday.
To the Secret Service, he was known as Searchlight. To his fellow law students at Duke, he was known as Gloomy Gus. Barry Goldwater once said that he was the most dishonest man he had ever met. He said, "If the president does it, that means it's not illegal." No wonder he was nicknamed Tricky Dick.
People have got to know whether or not their president is a crook. Well, I'm not a crook. Therefore, I shall resign the presidency effective at noon tomorrow.
Its creator makes a cameo appearance in The Italian Job. In a flashback scene, he steals a computer program from a dorm room. Although its popularity peaked at 13.6 million users, its performance began to wane when visitors to the site began laying cuckoo's eggs, spoofed or corrupted files. Metallica filed a lawsuit against this service, transforming themselves from rock and roll rebels to what Newsweek dubbed cybernarks. The name of the company came from creator Sean Fanning's nickname in high school, given to him because of the nappy texture of his hair. Metallica's 55-minute song, Napster Be Gone, appears on their CD, Download This. The cover features a one-fingered salute to the kitty with the headphones. The song was not heavily downloaded.
After a brawl erupted on his birthday, Yankees management felt that his excessive drinking was a bad influence and dealt him to Kansas City. During the 1960 season, he was suspended after he charged the mound and hospitalized Cubs pitcher Jim Brewer with a brutal punch to the right eye. As manager of the Yankees, he feuded publicly with George Steinbrenner. He was finally fired for fighting with a marshmallow salesman. He was fired as manager of the Tigers for ordering pitchers to throw at batters, living up to his nickname, Billy the Kid. He is often parodied for kicking dirt at the feet of umpires. This ancient sport was dominated at the 2000 Olympics by the Korean women's team, who won bronze, silver, and gold. The practice of combining it with cross-country skiing originated when the birch-legged warriors of Scandinavia rescued their royal prince in 1206. In 1457, King James II of Scotland banned the game of golf because it was distracting his subjects from practicing this sport. It's also combined with fishing in North America, as anglers shoot into the shallows when they see the arch of a carp swim by. Bow fishers usually hunt by boat for their swimming prey, which include giant carp and sharks. The similar sport of bow hunting requires more skill than hunting with a rifle, but it is banned in many European countries for being unnecessarily cruel to animals.
McGee, who directed the big screen versions of Charlie's Angels, is this show's executive producer. The show is centered around a family that annually celebrates Chrismukkah, a combination of Christmas and Hanukkah. A playful parody of the show itself, called The Valley, is required viewing for principal character Summer Roberts. Its theme song, Phantom Planets California, was also featured in the movie Orange County. The series is noted for its music selections, which created an OC sound. Recording artist Jem was cast as a wedding singer in one episode, and a new location, the Bait Shop, was added in the second season to accommodate live performances by up-and-coming bands. In 1970, she was charged with drug smuggling, but the charges were dropped because the pills in her possession turned out to be vitamins. Her birth caused some interruptions during the making of the 1938 film Jezebel, starring Bette Davis. During the 2004 presidential election, critics of John Kerry tried to smear him because she had supported his group, Vietnam Veterans Against the War. She was accused of being too fond of North Vietnamese soldiers after posing with them on an anti-aircraft gun during a 1972 visit to Hanoi. Dubbed Hanoi Jane by her critics, Fonda later regretted posing for the photo, saying it was the most horrible thing I could possibly have done. She's been involved in many causes over the years. Here, she helps build homes for Habitat for Humanity.
Though he lived until 2004, he was believed dead in 1946, prompting the Museum of Modern Art to organize a posthumous exposition of his work. At 22, in West Africa, he caught black water fever. He claimed that during his convalescence in France, he truly discovered photography. In World War II, he was captured by the Germans and held as a prisoner of war. On his third attempt, he escaped and joined the French resistance. He helped found the Magnum Cooperative, which gave photographers carte blanche to work on creative projects without an assignment. Famous for his mastery of candid photography and the decisive moment, he's widely recognized as the father of photojournalism. 8 years after his death, his music was used as the score to He Got Game, Spike Lee's movie about basketball. His Americanist works set scores to episodes of American regional history and folklore. Having defended the Communist Party in the 30s, the Dean of American Composers was branded a communist during the Red Scare. In 1953, he had to cope with having his music pulled from President Eisenhower's inaugural concert due to the political climate. I have never been and am not now a communist, said the composer of Fanfare for the Common Man during the congressional hearings. The FBI investigation was finally closed in 1975. Copeland's membership in the party was never proven.
At the age of 13, she won a radio station contest. The grand prize, a trip to Ottawa to perform a duet with country superstar Shania Twain. Arista Records' legendary CEO L.A. Reid signed her to the label as a vocalist when she was only 16. Seen as the anti-Britney, her skater chick persona, coupled with her talents, pushed sales of her debut album to over 14 million. In April 2005, she performed to sold-out venues in Singapore. In March of 2005, she won 3 Juno Music Awards in her native Canada. Occasionally accused of being angry, she blamed it on sugar and carbs, bad stuff. It makes you very irritated.
I don't think people so much portray me as the angry girl anymore. I think that was like so last year. With the last record, I don't know.
Many of his books have become movies, like Christmas with the Cranks, criticized as a celebration of intolerance, disguised as a joyous holiday film. He says, "I have learned not to read reviews, period, and I hate reviewers. All of them, or at least all but 2 or 3. Critics should find meaningful work." His books do not contain sex scenes. I'm not going to write about sex because my mother is still alive, and my wife says I don't know anything about it. A trial lawyer for many years, he often explores legal themes in such books as Runaway Jury, made into a movie starring John Cusack. A devout Christian, John Grisham suggested that legal action be taken against Oliver Stone and Hollywood for their moral blindness. He writes, "The landscape of American jurisprudence is littered with the remains of large, powerful corporations which once thought themselves bulletproof and immune from responsibility for their actions."
Its creator, John Pemberton, sold a 2/3 interest in 1887 for less than $300. By 1919, it was worth $25 million. In 1943, a bottling plant was opened in Algiers to supply American troops during World War II. The slogan, "The best just got better," heralded the 1985 marketing crisis that gave rise to the Society for the Preservation of the Real Thing. By 1926, it had used the law to battle imitators like Coca-Cola and Soda-Cola some 7,000 times. Coca-Cola estimates that 13,000 Cokes are consumed every second of every day throughout the nearly 200 countries where it's sold. Sangrita, a mixture of orange juice, grenadine, and chilies, is often served with it as a chaser in its home state of Jalisco. It must contain at least 51% blue agave. Premium bottles will have up to 100% and be priced much higher. Spanish conquistadors are credited with distilling pulque, its primitive ancestor, into a stronger drink called agave wine, or mezcal brandy. A popular cocktail made with this liquor is said to take its name from Rita Hayworth, whose real name was Margarita Cancino. Worms have never been put in bottles of Mexican tequila. The myth was a 1940s marketing tactic. However, caterpillars, not worms, can be found in bottles of its close relative, mezcal.
As a youth, he played saxophone with legendary virtuoso Stan Getz. He readily admitted that Stan was a little better. He was a proponent of Ayn Rand's objectivism and contributed several essays to her 1966 book, Capitalism, the Unknown Ideal. President Reagan first made him chairman of the board. In 2004, he was nominated by President George W. Bush for an unprecedented 5th term. He heads the U.S. Federal Reserve Board, which ensures that the greenback maintains a healthy outlook and that inflation is held in check. One of the most powerful men in the U.S. and widely praised as an economics genius, his negative or positive comments can change the movement of the stock market. He has been quoted as saying, "Material success is possible in this world and far more satisfying when it comes without exploiting others." Recruited out of Yale by the CIA, he retired as an operational officer in 1970 after a mysterious blood infection seriously damaged his health. During the 2004 presidential race, he wrote an op-ed piece titled, "Need Intelligence? Don't Ask John Kerry." A co-sponsor of the Patriot Act, his office number was shown in Fahrenheit 9/11 because the 800 number he gave for voicing concerns didn't exist. Imported from the U.S. Congress, where he had chaired the House Intelligence Committee, in 2004 he was appointed director of the CIA. Although his office number was included in Fahrenheit 9/11, a filmed interview with Goss concerning his CIA qualifications didn't make the final cut. Following Goss's nomination, Michael Moore released the video clip. Goss later explained that he was referring to working as a case officer.
I couldn't get a job with CIA today. I am not qualified. I don't have the language skills. My language skills were Romance languages and stuff. We're looking for Arabists today. I don't have the cultural background, probably, and I certainly don't have the technical skills. As my children remind me every day, "Dad, you got to get better on your computer." So the things that you need to have, I don't have.
At the age of 22, he was an assistant coach at West Point Military Academy. He became head coach by the time he was 24. His hard-nosed demeanor and disciplined approach led his 1976 college team to the NCAA title with a historic record of 32-0. The same year, during the Pan American Games in Puerto Rico, he was arrested for assaulting a police officer. His team still won the tournament. Renowned for his volatile temper, one famous night in 1985, he threw a chair across the court during a game with Purdue. Hall of Famer Bobby Knight was eventually fired from Indiana under its zero-tolerance policy in 2000 when he took a student by the arm and berated him. Knight was offended because the boy had addressed him by just his last name. It's said that the craze for this game in the 20s helped save the Milton Bradley Company from bankruptcy. At the height of the fad, cow bones were shipped from the Midwest to China to meet demand for sets of The Game of Four Winds. It's been likened to gin rummy. Unique to the American version is the use of joker tiles and a tile passing move called the Charleston. A 1924 magazine article advised players who often dressed in Chinese costumes to play to pronounce its name March On. Non-traditionalists play modern versions of the Chinese tile game, such as the simpler Shanghai Solitaire.
He once published a book-length poem called The Forest of Love. A false urban legend claims Marissa Tomei won her 1993 Best Supporting Actress Oscar because as a presenter, he read out her name by mistake. He was nominated for an Oscar for his supporting role in the 1953 classic western Shane and had to wait 38 years before he was nominated again. He won that Oscar for City Slickers and showed amazing balance doing one-armed push-ups during his acceptance speech. In the 1994 animated film The Swan Princess, Palance provided the voice for the character of Lord Rothbart, who does a one-armed push-up during a song. Before she began turning letters on Wheel of Fortune, Vanna White appeared as a contestant on this show. It holds the record for the longest-running game show in TV history. It received some unwelcome publicity in 1994 when former employee Diane Parkinson sued the host for sexual harassment. It began attracting a frat house audience after host Bob Barker delivered a right hook to Adam Sandler in the 1996 movie Happy Gilmore. In Shrek 2, Donkey wants to give Puss in Boots the Bob Barker treatment. This is a reference to the statement that Barker makes at the end of every episode of The Price is Right, urging viewers to get their pets spayed or neutered.
When her career began, she greatly impressed photographer Peter Wong, but his agency said she would, at best, become a JCPenney catalog model. Considered one of the top supermodels ever, she's known for her goofy humor. In her first appearance on Letterman, she yodeled for him. Like many models, she's also worked as an actress. She's appeared in TV and film roles and played the part of beauty Ursula Andress. If she were to take a clumsy fall off a catwalk, she can take comfort in the fact that her legs are insured for millions of dollars. In 2004, she hosted the hit reality show Project Runway, in which would-be designers compete for a big contract.
It's fun to watch that, they're all fighting, they want to win, they really, really want to make it as designers, so a lot of them do anything to make it.
In 2004, Danish superstar Tim Christensen promoted his 2003 album Honeyburst with a live concert at this studio. Cliff Richard and the Drifters helped make this studio the center of rock music with their 1958 recording of Move It. Pink Floyd's legendary concept album Dark Side of the Moon was recorded here between June 1972 and January 1973. This studio is synonymous with the Beatles. Their last album was named after the road on which the studio is located. Numerous soundtracks have also been recorded at Abbey Road, including Raiders of the Lost Ark, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Playwright Joe Orton wrote a screenplay for this group, but it was rejected. In 2004, Cirque du Soleil announced that it would create a live theater production in Las Vegas based on their music. In 1985, Michael Jackson paid an estimated $47 million for the publishing rights to most of their songs. He now shares the rights with Sony. After allegedly snubbing Imelda Marcos in Manila, an angry mob harassed them at the airport, beating up members of their entourage. The incident in Manila helped convince the Beatles to stop touring in 1966. The group's last live performance came in 1969 on the rooftop of Apple Studios. His business card bragged creator of jazz and swing. He was a talented arranger whose specially written scores were tailor-made for the 3-minute limit of 78 RPM records. In 1926, he and the Red Hot Peppers signed a recording contract with the Victor label. These recordings are regarded as classics of 1920s jazz. He wrote over 1,000 songs, including Dead Man's Blues, King Porter's Stomp, and his tribute to himself, Jelly Roll Blues. A brilliant raconteur, Ferdinand Joseph Jelly Roll Morton left behind a legacy in the form of 9 hours of interviews with folklorist Alan Lomax. These interviews comprise what is thought to be the first extended oral history ever created.
As an overweight youth, he studied art in Italy and landed a small part in Federico Fellini's Satyricon. He faced a lawsuit in 2004 after he slapped a man at the Phoenix airport who had yelled, "Drop your bags, let's rock to the 50s." He's known for his tank tops, short shorts, and a vast collection of Barbie dolls. He played an aerobics instructor on TV's General Hospital and now leads workouts at Slimmons in Beverly Hills. You'd be sweating too. The man he slapped at the airport was a 6'2" part-time ultimate cage fighter. Charges against Simmons were later dropped. This Hollywood favorite maintained his innocence but plea bargained a fine and suspended sentence in a 1996 conviction for bribing tax inspectors. Written into John Travolta's contract for the film Basic was a reported demand for 8 of his shirts per day. Martin Scorsese's 1991 documentary Made in Milan is a tribute to this Italian designer. Fame and the launch of Emporio Armani came after Richard Gere showcased his designs in American Gigolo. Armani is the only fashion designer to have his work exhibited at the Guggenheim Museum in New York. A retrospective was held in 2000, the 25th anniversary of his company's start.
A German agent during World War II, he was jailed by the British. He was imprisoned again from 46 to 49 for committing acts of terrorism. His country's relationship with Iran will never be normalized until Iranians rename Khalid Eslamboli Street, a street named in honor of his assassin. Author Michael Drosnin claims that encoded in the Bible is the date of his murder, the place, and how it was done. 6 Tishri, 1981, parade, gunfire. With Jimmy Carter presiding, Anwar Sadat and Menachem Begin signed the historic 1978 Camp David Accords, which returned the Sinai to Egypt. Prior to the Camp David Accords, there had been only one other peace treaty between Israel and Egypt. It occurred over 3,000 years ago, and the leaders who had agreed to it were King Solomon and the Egyptian Pharaoh. Following a coup, her remains were seized by the government. She was packed into a crate labeled radio equipment and stored in an army official's office. The government then shipped her body to its embassy in Germany. From there, it was sent for secret burial in Milan, Italy, where it remained for 14 years. As a peace offering to her husband Juan, living in exile in Spain, her perfectly embalmed body was exhumed and returned to him. The lifelike corpse was often displayed on Perón's dining room table. In 1974, Eva was finally brought home to Argentina. Although Eva's body briefly disappeared again, she was finally entombed beneath layers of steel. The epitaph on her grave reads, "Don't cry for me, Argentina. I remain very near you."
flock had his pet monkey on board for 8 races in this series. Dads who were fans of this series were labeled a key voter group by the media during the 2004 presidential election. In 2003, Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger was on hand to unveil the number 42 Havoline Terminator 3 Dodge show car for this series. After their cars collided on the last lap of its Daytona 500, drivers Cale Yarborough and Donnie Allison got into a nasty fistfight on national television. NASCAR had its roots in bootlegging. Drivers would modify their cars to make them faster and more maneuverable when outrunning the law. Soon, the drivers were competing against each other in organized races. As a troublemaking child, he was caught throwing tomatoes at the police. Brother Matthias, a Catholic priest, taught him how to throw a baseball. He never lost his sense of mischief. He once drank several lemon-lime sodas and ate 12 hot dogs in 12 minutes, then needed urgent abdominal surgery. He refused to take a pay cut during the Depression. When told his salary was more than President Hoover's, he said, "I know, but I had a better year." His popularity in New York City led to the construction of a bigger ballpark, Yankee Stadium, known as the house that Ruth built. Babe Ruth is considered by many to be the greatest player of all time. However, when this hard-living icon wanted to manage the Yankees, the team owner laughed it off, saying, "Manage the Yankees? You can't even manage yourself."
Having been graylisted during the McCarthy era, he was reduced to writing music for low-budget films such as Robot Monster and Catwomen of the Moon. English football fans adopted his theme for The Great Escape when England played in the 1998 World Cup. In 7 decades, he wrote music for more than 200 films and TV shows, including Ghostbusters, The Ten Commandments, Airplane, and The Age of Innocence. Although he had the same last name as conductor Leonard Bernstein, he was not related to him. He was nominated for an Academy Award 14 times, but won only one for Thoroughly Modern Millie. In her first news anchor job, she was thought to lack the detachment needed to be a successful reporter. She cried at sad stories and laughed whenever she misread a word. She played Ellen DeGeneres' therapist on the famous Coming Out episode of Ellen. After she swore off burgers on her show about mad cow disease, she was unsuccessfully sued by Texas cattlemen who accused her of driving down beef prices. Her company, Harpo Productions, is not named for the silent Marx brother, but is her own name spelled backwards. In 2003, Oprah ranked #1 on VH1's list of 200 greatest pop culture icons, beating out Superman and Elvis Presley for the top spot.
His body was kept in a glass-topped coffin in Crystal Cave, which he had discovered. It was stolen and later recovered, missing a leg. In 1925, the greatest caver ever known was trapped in Sand Cave while looking for an entrance into the larger Mammoth Cave. Pinned by a rock, he was just out of reach of the rescuers tunneling to him. Above ground was a growing media circus and tourist frenzy. Funeral services were held, but his body was not recovered until 80 days after his death, when his brother Homer Collins retrieved it. Collins had lived for 17 days, trapped only 50 feet from the surface. Rookie reporter Skeets Miller won a Pulitzer Prize after crawling into the cave to get an interview. The story inspired folk songs, a museum, a 1951 movie, and a stage musical. The outer surface of this toy is patented as the Morrison Slope, after its inventor, William Frederick Morrison. Advanced moves with this toy include the hammer, the scuba, and the hospital pass, named for its increased risk of injury. In 1968, the U.S. Navy spent $400,000 to study this toy in wind tunnels, following its flight with computers and cameras. These aerofoils originated as Frisbee Baking Company pie tins. Yale students found they could be tossed and caught. With the popularity of disc dog competitions, special, more pliable Frisbees were designed to resist damage caused by a dog's teeth.
One member of this band of brothers arranged the song Bye Bye Blackbird for former Beatle Ringo Starr's 1970 album Sentimental Journey. One of the brothers, flush with his early success, treated himself to a Rolls Royce. He had to sit on a phone book to see over the hood. In 1978, all three brothers starred in the ill-fated Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, a film based on the Beatles' classic album. The Brothers Gibb are best known for their soundtrack to Saturday Night Fever, despite much earlier commercial and critical success. Saturday Night Fever is not the Bee Gees' only John Travolta connection. They wrote Too Much Heaven for his film Moment to Moment. Even though it was never used for the film, it still became a top 10 hit. The band's lead guitarist, also known as Captain Trips, lost half a finger in a wood-chopping mishap at the age of 4. Its drummer worked on the score for Apocalypse Now and later composed music for the Atlanta Olympics opening ceremonies. When the Lithuanian basketball team won a medal at the Barcelona Olympics, they mounted the podium wearing shirts designed by the band. Ben & Jerry's created an ice cream flavor named after Jerry Garcia, the leader and founder of The Dead. They called it Jerry Garcia. Jerry Garcia's band name idea, Mythical, Ethical, Icicle, Tricycle, didn't pass the acid test. He then used random dictionary picks to get their name instead.
His massive collection of Jimi Hendrix memorabilia is housed at the Experience Music Project, his interactive music museum. He bankrolled Spaceship One, winner of the Ansari X Prize for the first private manned spaceflight. Owner of the Seattle Seahawks, he had the old Kingdome imploded in 2000 to make way for the team's new home, Quest Field. Captain Kirk's plywood and Naugahyde command chair from Star Trek can be found at Allen's Science Fiction Museum. This Microsoft co-founder and guitarist in a band called Grown Men was ranked 7th on Forbes' 2005 list of the world's richest people. To make it at home, a double-chambered stovetop vessel called a mocha was traditionally used. Achille Gaja patented a device in 1947 that perfected the brew and its crema, where it is said most of the flavor lies. It's the base for latte, cappuccino, and even orange mocha frappuccino, the choice of male supermodels in Ben Stiller's Zoolander. Artistic makers express themselves by creating designs with steamed milk in the crema. Baristas and their machines compete at the World Barista Championships, where they prepare and serve espresso beverages. The signature drink of the 2005 champ from Denmark mixed espresso with pepper and lavender.
Requiring gravity assists from planet flybys to reach its destination, it's scheduled to pass Venus twice by 2007. Launched from Cape Canaveral on August 3, 2004, its complicated trajectory will also require onboard course corrections. Beginning in 2008, it will make 3 flybys of Mercury before entering the planet's orbit in 2011 for a year of data collecting. The spacecraft's name is short for Mercury, Surface, Space, Environment, Geochemistry, and Ranging. In addition to the flybys, Messenger will also use its large solar panels to power itself to Mercury. As it draws closer to the sun, the spacecraft will then require its ceramic sunshade to protect itself from temperatures that could reach 850 degrees Fahrenheit. He wrote a poem called Guns Are Fun. Later, his parents wrote a book called Breaking Points. In order to inflict the greatest damage, this Beatles fan loaded his .22 caliber with exploding Devastator bullets. After firing 5 shots and injuring 3 people, his 6th shot ricocheted off the presidential limo, hitting Ronald Reagan in the chest. In a note to Jodie Foster signed JWH, he promised to rescue her. Delusional loner Travis Bickle sends a similar note to Foster's character in Taxi Driver. At Hinckley's 1982 trial, he was found not guilty by reason of insanity and sent to St. Elizabeth's Hospital in Washington, D.C.
Some of this sport's moves include the Pixie, Flying Clipper, and Butterfly. Survivor Africa winner Ethan Zahn played this with African children during the filming of the show. Serious participants prefer wearing Rod Laver tennis shoes, named after the Australian tennis legend. Only everyday hacks call it this. People who are really into it call it footbag, its official name. Hacky Sack is a trademarked brand of footbag that is owned by Whammo. Although Hacky Sack was the original footbag, most enthusiasts view it as an inferior product. Born in South Africa, he left at age 2. His mom said, "I didn't want our son to grow up where one group of people were second-class citizens." At the NBA draft, Phoenix fans roundly booed his selection because he was short, unathletic, and played poor defense. After being traded to Dallas, he became a star. At his first All-Star game with bombs falling on Baghdad, he wore a shirt that said, "No war, shoot for peace." In 2004, he went back to Phoenix, where his inspired play led him to be named MVP of the NBA, the first Canadian ever to win the award. When he was asked what he thought about seeing his name on the MVP list next to Magic, Bird, and Shaq, he responded with typical humility, "Who does not belong?"
was originally featured in a radio series which began every episode with the catchphrase, "Return with us now to the thrilling days of yesteryear." His name was Reed. He was said to be a direct ancestor of another hero, Britt Reed, who donned his own mask to fight crime as the Green Hornet. He rode a horse named Silver, fought with silver bullets, and in the 1950s TV version, his sidekick was played by Jay Silverheels. Portrayed on that series by Clayton Moore, he was the lone survivor of a group of Texas Rangers who were ambushed and left for dead. Whenever mounting Silver, he'd shout, "Hi ho, Silver, away!" Besides sounding dramatic, this would originally serve to tell radio audiences that a riding sequence was about to start. Each episode would invariably end with a character wondering who that masked man was, only to be told, "Why, that was the Lone Ranger." Its first season featured skits by a group of Muppets that Jim Henson created specifically for the show. Seinfeld co-creator Larry David wrote for this show for a season, but only one of his sketches made it to air. Every episode has been broadcast from New York, except for one disastrous show in 1977 that was aired from New Orleans during Mardi Gras. On a 2004 episode, it was revealed that musical guest Ashlee Simpson was lip-syncing instead of singing live, causing her to dance off stage. Contrary to popular belief, Steve Martin was never a cast member of Saturday Night Live.
In 1855, 30 Mormons settled here to convert the Paiute Indians. They planted fruit trees, raised vegetables, and mined lead to make bullets. A strict anti-gambling law came into effect in 1910. The local paper said, "Stilled forever is the click of the roulette wheel, the rattle of dice, and the swish of cards." Forever lasted 3 weeks. Gamblers set up underground games that flourished until 1931, when gambling became legal in the state. In 1993, the remains of a Colombian mammoth were discovered outside Vegas. With all its past mob activity, more fossils may well be discovered in the future. A spectacular Vegas resort is the Luxor, a 30-story pyramid of black glass with 4,400 rooms. The brightest light in the world shines from its peak, which can be seen 250 miles away. Instead of elevators, the Luxor has inclinators, which tilt to 39 degrees and travel up the pyramid to your room. That's Vegas. It's a very high-paying job for a young girl living in Mongolia, inspiring many parents to start their child's training by age 5. Many myths surround it. Snake oil salesmen gave demonstrations in their sales pitches, claiming that only their oil could produce such flexibility. Another myth is that women are more adept at it than men. This man demonstrates enterology, the ability to squeeze the body into a tiny box. Schools in Mongolia teach contortionism. It requires a limited diet and a constant smile, regardless of the pain. Depending on the region, different styles of contortionism are practiced. In China, the purpose is to amaze the audience by forming unusual shapes. Mongolian contortionists are more concerned with the smoothness of the movements and the overall balletic grace of the performance.